Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's webinar. Exciting times, lockdown, so a good excuse to jump on here. We did a few of these last year when we first went into lockdown and got a lot of great success out of it. So we want to make sure that we continue to try and do these moving forward. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking a little bit about the sales market. I'll touch on that very, very briefly, but the majority of this sort of webinar is going to be more about the property management space, what we're doing in that environment to adapt in not just COVID terms, but also we'll go over to Serv from our team, who's also going to be giving us a bit of an idea of a slightly new, I guess we could call it a division or a slightly new chapter within our business, where we're going to be helping our landlords and our investors get the most out of their rental properties. So not just about organising maintenance on homes and on investment properties and collecting rent, but also a little bit of extra advice around proactive maintenance. And Serv and I will dig a little bit deeper into that later on in today's webinar. Today I've got with me Penny, who is our new property manager, and we'll get to you in a minute. Serv, who I've just introduced, and then Jasmine, who has been doing a lot of our property management stuff over the past, I guess we'll call it 16 months since the business has been open. But first, what I'll touch on, I wanted to touch on a couple of opportunities that we've got available for investors. If you wanted to go down the path of trying to purchase a property that's already got a tenant inside it and a tenant that's already there on an ongoing lease. So a couple of properties that we've got is this one here just down in Thornley. It's a property that we've just listed only the last couple of days ago. It's in the Huntingdale estate. They've classified it as a 4-bedroom, whereas like it's got a double garage. One of the garages has been converted into a bedroom, so you could shift it if you wanted to back to a 3-bedroom. So semi-detached property, really well looked after. There's tenants in there at the moment paying $700 a week. The last few sales in the complex have been sitting around the 1.4 mark for properties that are quite similar to this one here. So quite a healthy rental return and a tenant that would like to continue staying there moving forward. So there's an opportunity there for an investor if they wanted to buy that sort of product. And just one other property that we wanted to touch on is a property Serv from our team is looking after. This is just in Waitara on Yardley Avenue, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. Again, long-term tenant in there that has been renting most of their life, really, and has been in this particular property for quite some time, with the rent on that at $630 a week. So a really, really good opportunity for an investor there if they wanted to buy that sort of product. The last sale in the complex was close to that 900 mark. But this one here is, again, something around that similar price point. So I just wanted to touch on the sales side of things for investors. There is still a great market if you are an investor and you are looking at purchasing an investment property. There is a lot of people out there in terms of the tenants, in terms of the rental market, which has shifted upwards. And what we noticed probably about 2.5 months ago is we started to see the sales market really slow down. We started to see buyers coming through open homes pretty much halved, about 60% less buyers coming through. And then what happened was that shifted over to the rental market. Now, Penny's going to touch on some of the properties that she's been able to lease very quickly. But I just thought the reason why we wanted to have Jazz here today is actually just to say thank you to her for everything that she did over the past probably 16 to 17 months. Jazz, you did a phenomenal job with the property management side of things. Not a lot of people actually knew that property management probably wasn't your forte, something that you were great at, but probably not something where, you know, you wanted to see yourself moving forward. So I know that we're introducing Penny as the new property manager. I didn't tell you this, but the reason why you're here today is for us to say a massive thank you to you. You did an absolutely phenomenal job with that property management division, and it virtually started at nothing. You know, we started it from ground up. One of our first managements, we sort of tripped over and we're like, yeah, we'll take on the business. And, you know, you did a phenomenal job there, and you've managed to build the foundations of what is now a really, really good business from that property management side of things. But I know, again, you're here is also to introduce Penny as well, who you've been helping, I guess, get in tune with the property management portfolio and get a better idea of each individual property. I'll let you introduce Penny, and if you wanted to say anything else, you can.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, I wasn't expecting that, but very happy to do it, happy to help. But yes, I'm here to officially introduce Penny today. Obviously, there's Penny on the screen and well across Penny by now, because she's done a good job introducing herself to our clientele. But she's been working as part of our team for a few weeks now, and we've been working together just to ensure that smooth handover of everything within the business. And I just want to say, Penny, you're absolutely wonderful. You know, she brings with her such fantastic experience and extensive knowledge of the real estate industry, and obviously property management, being a property manager in particular. You know, she's across relevant legislation, and not only that, she's extremely positive and efficient in everything she does. So we're really excited and happy to have you on board. You just seem to know what you're doing, and you're happy doing it. So it's yeah, during that handover, I had absolutely no doubt that everyone was in great care moving across to you. So well done. And Josh, I'm sure you agree, Penny's been, you know, working very hard with the changes and with the COVID conditions as a result of lockdown, but she's put new systems in place and just made sure everyone's been kept informed, and yeah, just reassuring everyone that we're doing the best we can. So obviously I'll let Penny uncover further as to what that looks like, but I just want to say well done as well.
Thanks so much, Jazz. You've been great as well. Like, honestly, what you've handed over to me has just been seamless. Everything's been taken care of. So again, another big thank you from you as well.
No worries. Happy to do it.
Okay, well, I guess I'll touch on obviously the last almost 2 weeks now that we've been in lockdown. During that time, we've had 8 properties on the market, and we've leased 7 of those. 2 of those we've turned around and had tenants move in within 3 days of them leasing. So it's been a very busy time despite us being in lockdown. During any of the inspections we had 28 inspections last Saturday and another 7 through properties this week. So during all of those inspections, we're focusing on COVID safety, following all the legislation, making sure there's only one person through the property at any one time, hand sanitizer upon entry, make sure they're wearing masks, and just basically keeping everyone safe. We want to be able to make sure we get out of this lockdown and don't add on another week at the end. Yes, at the moment, I said we leased 7 properties. During the whole turnaround time of leasing those and getting tenants in, it can all still go ahead. It is an essential service, but we like to minimise the amount of contact we have with the tenants around signing leases, collecting keys, and all of that sort of thing. So we make sure it is all digital. Each lease is signed digitally. It's sent through to the tenants straight away. They can read through it, ask questions, and sign it. When they're coming to collect their keys, we also make that very minimal contact. So sometimes we'll meet them on site at the property, hand over their keys, touch base with anything whilst we're there with them, and let them go on with their move. Other times we keep them coming into the office, but we take everything out to the door of the office for them, so there's no minimal contact once we get there as well. Currently for tomorrow's private inspections, we do have 3 groups booked into each property we have on the market, and we've also got a few booked in for our off-market properties as well. But everything still keeps moving as normal through lockdown, just a little bit different.
Yeah. That's interesting, right? So off-market rental inspections. So we talk about this a lot in sales, and, you know, people who get our emails and see a lot of our alerts, and a lot of the people that deal with us are like, wow, like in your emails, you see like you've got a lot of these off-market listings. Talk to us about like off-market rentals. That we've started to do that a little bit, and, you know, just like the sales environment, people would say to us, "Hey, we're not ready right now." And look, that's okay, but if we do have someone, what would you like us to do? So you've actually started incorporating that a little bit into the off-market rental space. How are you managing that though? Like, because you're not doing any advertising of those properties on the major portals, how are you finding tenants to actually go and take them through properties?
Well, we've got a portal set up with all of the details of any tenant that has previously inquired or come through any of our properties. And it's basically a matter of matching up those requirements with the property that we've got coming or off market at the moment. So I contacted quite a number of tenants yesterday, and I had 5 groups through an off market property within 3 hours of contacting them. So having that database and all of those tenants in there, it's a good way to use them and get properties leased straight away.
Yeah, I think what I've loved about what you've done and the energy that you've brought to the business, again, not that Jasmine hadn't done that, but she was wearing several different hats, right? You know, office administrator, sales support, or customer successes, which is what we're calling it now. And then she had the property management hat as well. And from the exterior, you wouldn't have known that she was doing all those roles. That just seemed like she was just a property manager. But you've brought in, obviously you have a little bit more time on your hands now where you're just solely property management. And what you've really done is you've lifted the service around saying, well, if a tenant inquires on a property, let's field their inquiry on that property. Let's try and book a time for them to show them through, but let's also get their requirements as to what they're looking for. Let's actually put that in the proper spot within the database, which a lot of these databases and CRMs have, but aren't used very well. So let's go and put their requirements in there. So if we do get a property that could be quite similar to something they've seen in the past or something that they would like to have a look at, with a few clicks of a button, you can pull up a call list. And again, that was a good example of a property that's off market at the moment in the area. Whereas, you know, we spoke to the owner in the morning. They said, yeah, if you've got people, bring them through. You went back through a list of a property that you leased quite recently, and then you had some people down there in the afternoon. I think you've got some more people later today, and that's all in that off market space. So I think ultimately it first comes down to the property being priced really well. That's the most important thing. But then in the background, what you've been doing around spending a little bit more time with those prospective tenants just to get an understanding of what they're looking for. And I think that'll set us quite well in the sense that if we can't find that person a property right now, but we find them one later, and that prospective tenant has actually realized that you've gone a little bit above and beyond for them, you know, the tenant experience is a lot better. But also for our landlords, why it benefits them is because you've already got a relationship with those tenants. You know, you're already taking them through properties that are off market that you don't really need to do, but you're offering that extra service. So it's great for the landlords to know that we've already got that relationship with the tenants, right?
Definitely, yeah. Having that relationship with both the tenants and the owners and being able to match people up is a great thing to have. Especially, I've had quite a few tenants come and go, oh, but you're contacting me. I was like, yeah, of course. If I've got a property that's going to suit you, why wouldn't I get you?
Yeah.
You seem like a great tenant.
I love that because
Awesome.
that's something that's not getting done at the moment, right? And, you know, Serv and I and the sales guys, we do that a lot in the sales space. But it's definitely something that, you know, when you first started, we want to sit down with you and say, how do we repurpose that property management space, as you would call it? And that's probably the lead into what Serv and I have been working on. And really what Serv's going to be the main one that's running this division with myself in the background. And then the sales guys really driving that, and then really working quite closely with Penny and the property management team is sort of what we're sort of calling like our real estate services division. And the way that I've worded it is that we're going to be helping our landlords and our clients increase the potential return on investment. Okay, so it's quite easy to say that a property manager goes and looks after maintenance of a property more from a reactive perspective. So tenant calls up, hey, tap's leaking, you know, can you come and fix it? That's the reactive maintenance. But we're looking at from more of a proactive standpoint. Okay. Now we're not tax advisors and we're not registered accountants or anything like that. So you have to go and seek your own advice. But what we do know is that the purpose of having an investment property is obviously to get a bit of income from it. Happy days. But you need to register some losses against it. Otherwise, you know, you talk to your accountant about that, and tax can vary depending on how you go and approach that. And we're not just suggesting maintenance on properties just so you can get some tax benefits or anything like that. It's also about the constant improvement of that property over time. So when you actually do come to sell it, or when the next tenant wants to actually move into the property, it's not falling apart and you don't have to chase your tail to get everything fixed when that tenant's moved out. So Serv, I'll introduce you. Now, you're in our sales team at this point in time, but you've been doing a lot of work in the background around this space. Do you want to talk to us, I guess, a little bit about what your involvement's going to be and where you'd like to take the business moving forward from that division?
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Penny. So the idea about real estate services and the advisory side of things came by the need posed by our clients our clients were asking us certain questions around, all right, great, you're helping us on a property management journey, you're helping us in our buying and selling. And then we were having those conversations, and this particular need has come ground up, where our clients have been asking, how can we maximize on our return on investment? And every client has got a different need, and they're on a different journey on their appetite for their goals, right? So part of this service is just dig deeper into our clients' needs. What do they would like to do? What's their 10-year plans? What's their 5-year plans? What's their appetite to take this further? Obviously, anyone would buying their house is for their living purposes, and the investment is for basically improving their lifestyle. Now, if you bring that all together and basically and start thinking about it as a portfolio of how am I going to pace my journey, what are my goals, that's what drove this particular need and our thought process around real estate services.
Yeah. I was going to say, so two parts to it, right? So I'll cover the first part a little bit, then we're going to move into that advisory side of things, right? So really where the first part comes is that, Penny goes in to do a periodic inspection or an inspection in general, or a maintenance repair that comes through from the tenant. And she goes through and realizes there's a couple of other things that aren't right. That the vanity is starting to warp just a little bit from previous water history or whatever it might be. Now, obviously, if it's tenant's damage and it's malicious damage, we'll approach that with the tenant, and that's something that the tenant will need to rectify. But on the bottom of the periodic inspections, what we're going to start introducing is that, extra proactive maintenance. And we haven't worked out the terminology just yet, but we'll have a section down the bottom that'll say, hey, Mr. Landlord, there's some things in the property that you might consider doing at some point in time. Okay. Vanity's warping, kitchen bench top needs some work, taps are starting to be a little bit loose, whatever that might look like. And it'll give the landlord the opportunity to say, well, okay, so where am I at? Let me talk to my accountant. Let me see, okay, well, my job position has improved, so my pay has increased. I need to try and offset that somewhere. And the way of doing that is through an investment property. Okay. So, through negative gearing and all that sort of stuff. So, yes, let's go and get that vanity fixed. So let's go and do that work. And the fact that you've got a tenant in there means that it's classed as a repair. And again, seek your own advice. Lots of people, lots of accountants are going to give you different opinions as to the way that you need to do it. From what we've been told and the research and the education that that's sort of brought upon us, this is our knowledge of the process. So you've got a tenant in there, and go and get a few extra things fixed, classed as an actual repair as opposed to an actual improvement. And what we do is we're adding that service to say, these are the things that need to be done. Mr. Landlord says, yep, Penny, I'd love to go and do those things. Can you please help us with a quote? And that's where the extra service is. We'll go and organise that quote for you. It's over the top sort of a preparation of a property and all those sorts of things. You're not selling it, but essentially you're getting it ready if and when you do come down the path of selling it at some point in time. So that really becomes one portion of that service. And then the extension of that service is where Serv comes in and says, okay, well, let's call it our advisory, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and look at your portfolio. And do you want to dig a little bit deeper into that, Serv, where it's not just about the one property, that there's the investment property. Let's look at the portfolio as a whole and how we help benefit our clients there.
Yep, I would love to do that, Josh. But just before that, I'll probably give another example. You've given a classic example about a vanity, but I'll give you another one where I accompanied Jasmine to one of the tenants' properties, and they had a very high window out there, and we picked up on the information that the tenant gave us that there's a glaring light that comes into the bedroom straight from that high window. It does not have blinds, and they suggested that they if some blinds there would be great. Now, something like that is a classic example where now you have improved the experience of the tenant because we've taken that feedback and done something about it. The owners picked that up and said, oh, yeah, that's absolutely, it's a no-brainer. I understand. It is a high window. We need to be doing that. And while they have done that, what they have done is they have improved the capital value of that property because they have now installed that particular blind. So I just thought I bring that in as well.
Love it.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So in terms of expanding your tax tax depreciations. Josh touched on that. We talked about capital growth. We talked about rental yield. So there are properties out there which are which would give us more capital growth or rental yield. So we, in the advisory side of things, we talk to our clients and try to understand, one, I touched on the goals, but then also their risk appetite, or the diversification that could bring into the mix. Have they invested heavily in one suburb, or is there a possibility of trying to diversify that particular risk in different, and so that if in a couple of properties are doing heavy on the rental yield side, and there is enough capital growth happening on the others, we try and also discuss some details like what's the return on investment, because our clients have got ideas that we are going to be changing our kitchens, or we are going to be doing an extension. We do a quick calculation and a feasibility to say, if you spend X, what is the return that you're going to be getting, not only for your, because you're adding value to the family, but then on a long-term basis as well.
Love that. Yeah. So basically taking a slightly different approach, and again, not just doing the sales side of things or helping people buy, it's actually looking at the portfolio as a whole and see where you can diversify a little bit. What's the expected capital growth that you're going to get out of your investment property that you've got now in Thornlea, versus do you go and sell that and go and invest it in a maybe different area or a different asset class? Again, depending on your negative gearing standpoint, and depending on where you're at with your accountant. And, we could work quite closely with accountants, and the accountant might say, hey, my client, John Smith, needs to reduce this and increase this. And, we need to offload that asset due to the fact that, maybe capital gains tax, it's been rented out for a little while. So let's actually offload that. Can you help us do that? Then go and invest into the next place. Where do we go and invest next? And, you're going to be sitting down and basically having a portfolio for people, or sort of selection of properties, apart from the stuff that we already sell right now. So apart from the main areas that we work in, have that other opportunity for people to say, well, do you want to buy out west? Do you want to buy south? Do you want to go north? Do you want to do something off the plan where, you pay your small deposit now and then you get the benefit later on, and it's a brand new build, so your depreciation's a lot higher. You go and get your depreciation schedules, and you've got a lot more that you can claim in terms of that space. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there, but that's my also view on things, right?
Yep. Now, you've covered most of it, Josh. The only thing I would say is, from the real estate services perspective, if you think about trades, most of our landlords, we find, are time poor, and basically want that reliability, want that quality, and want to get good value. And real estate services absolutely does that, because we have a network of trades that we are actually using on a daily basis. We've built that relationship, and we are happy to, for our landlords to benefit from that service.
Yeah. And I guess some would say that that's a given, right? And my property manager or the real estate agent should have good, reliable relationships with tradespeople. But what we've realized is that's not actually the case. Now, we've taken the initiative to say, well, here's our service providers and here's our list, and to our salespeople, to our property management team, to everyone within the business, these are the people that we actually refer to based on our past experiences with them. But we are going to be digging a lot deeper into that in terms of heightening that expectation with those tradespeople, having a set of standards that those tradespeople would need to live to that are based on our expectations. And again, we're quite fortunate that we have an amazing tradespeople, but we need to make sure that we're keeping our standards quite high, and we want to reflect that against the tradespeople as well. So we're going to be digging a lot deeper into that, building better relationships there, having models set up where it's sort of like a community with our tradespeople that we've got, and having incentives for those tradespeople to be within that community. So therefore they go and not just provide good service, because that's what they should do, but keeping them honest around that service. And without being rude, just saying, look, you're part of our top 3 plumbers that we use. We want to keep you in that top 3. We will continue to refer to you. Should you make sure you're doing these things? Should you return the consumer's call? Should you make sure you give us an invoice on time, that you quote when you say you're going to quote? And if you're not going to follow those guidelines, look, unfortunately, you can't be a part of the top 3. And we feel like digging deeper into that space is going to be super important from a sales perspective, but then also from our property management division, just so they make sure that there is absolutely no gaps. Would that be fair to say?
Yep, absolutely. You nailed it.
Beautiful. Well, I feel like we've pretty much covered everything today. The main point around this was to give a bit of a teaser around that real estate services. The other point around it was to also put it out there and see if anyone had any questions around it. You know, we want to hear from people to understand what their concerns might be in that space, what questions they may have in that space, so we can start to form a really good platform that when we've launched it in the background and our current clients are getting that service right now, okay, but it's going to be for new clients as well. So for anyone that is our current landlord of ours or a current client of ours, everything that we've spoken about today around real estate services, you're getting the benefit of that. It is going to continue to improve. That advisory side of things is going to come out pretty soon with a little bit more detail, a little bit more marketing around how that will actually work. So if you are interested in any of those services and want to hear more, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out. If anyone has any questions, you can quickly pop it in the chat now. If not, you can reach out to us. Penny, thank you so much for joining, and appreciate everything that you're doing in that space. I know you've got some rental properties coming up and you've been working quite hard on that. So we appreciate what you're doing. Serv, thanks again. Chetan, thank you for joining us and popping the comments there. You've always been a large supporter of the business. So we'll have a recording of this sent out to anyone that had registered. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.